Yes, we are. Good evening, everybody, and how are we all doing today? Hope everybody is absolutely tickety boo. Just checking, we are actually live. Yes, we are. Got a little bit flummoxed there, but we are going. There we go. Good. How are we all doing today? So, it is Sunday night. It's time for our regular live stream. And this week, what I want to talk about is pruning. It is that time of year when we are all going to start thinking about our pruning and things like that. It's quite an important job when it comes to our fruit trees, bushes, etc., etc. Means our trees get a bit more productive, etc., etc. But before we get into that, let's see if anybody is actually out there. We've got Ballycillian out there saying, hello, everyone. Good evening to you. We've got Philly SBB. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to this one. The shipyard gardener was pruning my plum tree and left me with a stump. Interesting. Is that pruning? We will find out. Turbo Stream. Good evening, veg podcasters from a very wet Birmingham tonight. Well, it's still dry here. I'm sorry to hear you've got a bit of rain. We've got Jenny saying, hello, everyone. Hope you are well. Sorry, Richard, I forgot to send my harvest photo in. I need it for next week. Send it in for next week. That would be absolutely fantastic. Now then, says Robs, back after 6 weeks holiday. You lucky person. Love to be on holiday at the moment. By the way, I'm a little bit flummoxed this evening. If you haven't worked out, I've just had one of those days where everything has just suddenly got on top of me, and I haven't made any videos, but we've got it covered. Don't worry. Well, we got Digwell is there saying tough at the top to Buddy. Stuart Jackson, evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Good evening to you. Allotted Chef Nathan, evening all. Good evening to you. Scott is there. Seat to table plot 13. Good evening all. Good evening to you. Graham Arnold is there. Evening all. Hope everyone's well. Bethan is there saying evening all. And Idaho is there as well saying evening all. She goes on to say, just done watching Digwell's SSPC 2024. Fantastic results. It was so interesting to watch each person's techniques and harvest. Amazing. I'm going to do better next year. I'm going to take part in that and do better next year. It was a lot of fun, I've got to say, and it's. I think we need more of these sort of competitions on amongst ourselves as well. Anyway, let's get into tonight's show, and as I've already said, it's all about the pruning. And I think that is a very, very important job that we need to do at the moment, because it's just that time of year where pruning is a top priority, or certainly as we get into it. Now, I tend to do most of my pruning on my fruit trees, my nut trees, and bushes and things when they are dormant, i.e. when there's no leaves on them, and all the leaf has fallen. And the reason I do that is that I'm under the impression, after years and years of research and trial and error, is that it's much easier to see what we're actually doing, what we actually need to remove. No leaves on the trees. We can see which branches are dead, diseased, damaged, etc., etc. And those are the first three I always try to remove. So first of all, Chili Kate is there saying, hi everyone, just been harvesting chilies in the dark before the frost set. They're coming. Digwell's thinking in Idaho Garden Girl, and Rob says, sure is. Fantastic. Over on Instagram, Scottish Guy that treads, sorry, I will get that correct, is joined in. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. So back to, as I said, the pruning. Yeah, dead, diseased, damaged is the 3 Ds that I always start with when it comes to pruning. And I just simply check over my tree and remove those. I want you guys to share what you look for when you start your pruning techniques as well. Just got to quickly switch that off because that's annoying me. There we go, problem solved. But yeah, get sharing your techniques as well. Jenny says, I will be pruning my young apple tree, mainly lifting the crown as I allowed the lower branches to grow for a season to let the tree settle in after being planted. I've pruned my tayberry right down, so itchy nose. Yeah, so This is one of the things that I've often considered as well. When I first plant an apple tree, a fruit tree, I don't really want to prune it. That being said, I'm doing one this year that I will be having to prune, and that's because I've got a very specific way that I want to prune it. I brought this tree back at Gardener's World. It was £14, I think it was, which is the only reason that I'm doing it with this particular tree. What I want, and you'll see them in stately homes. I want a tree that has 3 branches coming out like that, effectively making a fence. And I refuse to pay full price for a tree to do that. I want to do it myself, but I'm not going to prepare to spend 60 odd quid for a new apple tree in order to cut half of it off. So I have bought this apple tree specifically to do that. And that's one of the techniques of pruning. I'm going to cut off just above the node, just above where a branch might start. And then we train the first lower branches out like that, and it should grow a third stem up like that. Next year, we do the same a bit higher up. We get the second row, and so on. So that's what one of the things I will be doing. Over on Instagram, Scottish Guy That Treads says, I have a raspberry bush. Should I prune it to ground level or just a tidy up? Good question. Now, it does depend on what type of raspberry bush you have. If you've got an autumn raspberry bush, then you want to cut it straight to the ground. That's a raspberry bush that fruits in autumn, and I'm kind of keep this simple for this. If it's autumn, you cut it at the ground, which are usually the easier raspberry bushes to look after. If it's a summer fruiting raspberry tree, i.e. it produces fruit in the summer, then they usually fruit on second year growth. So you want to leave any of the green, fresh, new looking branches from a summer raspberry bush, and the older ones you want to remove. The ones that have fruited this year are the ones you want to remove, depending, as I said, if it's strawberry or autumn. Let us know if you know what one it is. Where were we? Jenny says, my poor fan-trained apple got damaged in the house move. That's always a fear, isn't it? Now only half a fan, so some careful pruning to start the damaged side again. And this is a great thing, actually, isn't it? When it comes to pruning, as I said earlier, trying to get that correct sort of mode, trying to get that shape is something that scares the living crap out of me when it comes to getting trees. But we know it can be done. And one of the books I've spoke about this recently, this RHS book on pruning and training, has been a great read. Give me lots of ideas on how to prune and care for my fruit trees, bushes. One thing I'm particularly wanting to do more of at the moment is train some of my fruit trees and bushes into different shapes. I've already spoken about my 3-tiered. I want step over apple trees where they're literally just below step in height. I want some goblet shaped fruit trees and bushes. Lots of different shapes, and I like the idea of fan trained as well. Just to Scottish Guy at Treads, mine is definitely a summer raspberry. Thank you for the advice. That's easy then. Just cut away the older looking growth. You want to leave the fresh growth to produce fruit this year. Chili Kate says, first of all, I look for my tools. And that's actually a very good point. We do need tools, of course. Most of the time, I would just use, I'll grab a pair from behind me, a decent pair of secateurs to do most of my pruning, such as these Shortcut from Kent and Stowe. Nice, easy, comfortable, keep them sharp, keep them clean, especially if any of your fruit trees or bushes are showing signs of disease. You want to make sure that when you cut, you apply a sterilizer to your blade so you don't transfer that disease onto another tree. Easier said than done, but it is something to think about. But a good pair of secateurs is the first tool. Anything bigger than that, I would use something like this, a pair of loppers. And I used this on my elder tree yesterday. These are my Fiskars L77s. These are brilliant. These literally cut through some really thick chunks of wood really thick branches like a hot knife through butter. And I don't know if you know my elder tree down on the allotment, it's a bit of a mess. In 10 minutes, I had that pretty much down to a much easier, better looking tree. Toby Stream says, I was talking to a plot holder today about what looked like a currant bush. He was saying he was going to cut it right back. I said he should just thin it out. Now, that's a good question. Thinning out or cutting right back? Cutting right back can work depending on what your tree is like. But you've got to remember, it's going to take a while to recover and produce fruit again. But thinning out is a good way as well. You just remove a lot of branches. Now, you say currant bushes, if it's a red, white, or then they fruit on second year growth, like the summer raspberries. But I think it's blackberries, I might have got this wrong, that fruit on 3-year growth. I might have got that wrong, but hopefully somebody can correct me on that. Digwell says, I'm not much use today, guys. The only thing I have pruned is my blackcurrants. It will be a different story next year with my micro orchard. So taking notes today. You know, pruning is one of those jobs I try and do every winter. One, it's a winter job, so it's the best time to do it. But it's still well worth doing whatever fruit trees, bushes you have. I mean, there's a good wide range of reasons why we prune. One, to maintain shape. Two, to promote fruiting. And as we've said with the raspberries, we want to remove the older growth so that the fresher growth will produce fruit. But thirdly, it also can prolong the life of your tree or bush. It can make your tree, bush live for much longer. So good wide range reasons to prune fruit trees, fruit bushes, you name it, prune it. Turbo Stream says, I will be cutting my autumn raspberries to the ground at some point. Usually you'll be looking at doing autumn raspberries around January, February time, but summer raspberries right now. Stuart Jackson says, after we cut one of our apple trees right back, I've started training it to have 2 branches and hopefully 2 more next year, and so on up to the top of the fence. So a bit like what I'm doing with my apple tree, where I can't think of a 3-tiered espalier is the word, I think it is. We're going to train our trees to be like that. I particularly like cordon apple trees as well, for that matter, which are just a single stem growing up like so. It just makes it very easy to produce decent amount of fruit in a short amount of time. Idaho says, Jenny, that's bad. I don't know that will be a challenge. Talking about the fruit fan trained tree there. Turbo Stream says, my blackcurrant will be lightly pruned for cuttings too, and the gooseberries thinned out. Yeah, I mean, gooseberries are one of those that I hate pruning, because those spikes on those branches are really, really thick and nasty, aren't they? But definitely will need doing. What was it? He also said blackcurrant lightly pruned. Cuttings, yeah. Anything we prune, we want to try and make cuttings out of it as well, to try and get some more plants and increase the amount of plants that we have. Turbo Stream says winter pruning can be done anytime now until the end of February. Absolutely. Digwell says, best to train summer raspberries to grow on 2 sides of a frame, new growth one side, old growth the other, just to make pruning easy. That's a good idea. Didn't think of that. I like that. Yeah, so summer raspberries, normally we would need to give them some sort of support. Mine don't, admittedly, but some sort of support just to keep them growing. And what Digwell's saying there, if you have a 2-sided frame, you might have this year's growth on this side, last year's growth on that side. So when it comes to the winter, you just cut down that side, that's gone. You leave this side to grow and fruit for this year. And then next year, that will grow and you cut that one down. That makes a lot of sense, Digwell. Thank you. Please do share tips like that. On Instagram, Michael Carolan has joined, and the Scottish Guide treads, I'm a first-year grower. Is there any books you would recommend for general growing of veg? Quite a few, actually. There is a book coming out in January, which I'm going to highly, highly recommend, purely because I know the author, Lucy Chamberlain. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. I can't think what it's called, but look up Lucy Chamberlain. She's a wealth of knowledge, and she's got a book coming out on the 2nd of January, which is a great, or it's going to be a great vegetable book. I know Lucy very well, so I know it is going to be good. I've also got Alan Titchmarsh's Guide to Grow Your Own, and another one by what's his name? Bob Flowerdew, The Kitchen Gardener, which I also highly recommend. Idaho says, I've never heard of that technique. I think that's a great idea. I really do. Rebecca, good evening, Richard. From Rebecca. Rebecca, your name's coming up this week. It's been fixed, I'm told. So lovely to see you. Scott says, does winter pruning promote growth? It does promote growth, and it also just promotes the health of the tree as well. What I mean by that is that it keeps the tree living longer, and it lets ventilation, it lets light through the tree, which also helps it as well. Richard Golden has joined. Hello, all. Was here at 5:30, but things got in the way. It's always the way, isn't it? Always the way. Everything's got in my way today. Toby Stream says, I pruned a greasepeat last year, removing the old. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I pruned a greasepeat last year, moving the old stems. I certainly got a better crop as a result. And that's ultimately why what we want is better crops, isn't it? And this is the reason that pruning is so important. Anna Jones says, good evening, Garners. Sorry I'm late. Not a problem. Lovely to see you. Digwell says, exactly, Richard. See, I'm not totally useless. No, I really like that idea for summer raspberries. Really like that idea. I'm going to borrow that if you don't mind. Jenny says, Grow Veg Anywhere. Lucy's book. That's it. Yeah, Grow Veg Anywhere. Lucy's book. Really good. Well, it's going to be a really good book. I'll tell you more when I know more about it, but I know, Lucy, it's going to be a good book. Turbo Stream says, Digwell wins this week's top topical on the topic tip. You know, there's still time for some more top tips to come in on pruning. Would love to hear more. Over on Instagram, Plant Mama Sammy has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. We're talking about pruning tonight, and I want to get everybody's tips on prunings. But I also want to say, if anybody does have a question that they want to throw out, how to prune a certain tree, bush, or anything like that, please do throw it in the comments as well. Jenny says, Lucy is an amazing grower and so lovely. She really is. I've got so much time for Lucy. She's one of my favourite gardening people, apart from you guys, of course. Sometimes she pops in on Instagram, so you never know, she might pop in. Digwell says, someone knock me off my phone or I will be unbearable. Turbo Stream says, I listen to Lucy and Soul. They're a great couple, really, Lucy and Soul. Great podcasters. Great people as well. And of course, I'm one of their inspirations. So I'm taking that because that is one of the things I always wanted to achieve. Right. So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and I noticed, I think it was Ballycillian who said that they've been pruning a plum tree, because one of the trees I will never prune in wintertime is any stone fruit trees. So that's plums, peaches, nectarines, cherries. I never, ever prune those in the autumn, unless I have to, of course. And the reason for that is that when it comes to stone fruited trees, they're very susceptible to a disease called silver leaf disease. And something like that, something like a something like a stone fruited tree, when you prune it in the winter, makes it very easy for silver leaf disease to attack that tree. So for that very reason, I do not prune any of those stone fruited trees in the winter. I will save that for summer/spring, summer, that sort of time. it's one of those sacrifices we have to make. Bethan says, once I start pruning, I find it hard to stop. And that's actually a very good point. Because I find that as well. I mean, if I let Amanda loose in the garden as well with a pair of secateurs, I would have nothing because she's the same. She would just prune and prune and prune. But pruning is not about cutting away every single tree branch that you might see. It's about cutting it away in order to promote good, healthy growth. And one of the things that I've always struggled personally to talk about how to prune. It's very difficult to try and find the right words. One of the things I was going to say when we come to pruning, particularly many of our fruit trees, is that we got to prune at, let's say this is the branch and we're going to cut it there. We want to prune at an angle like that. Actually, probably better off like that. That just makes a clean cut, which is why you also want sharp secateurs. But you prune like that, but you also got to look for a little nodule, a little sort of leaf bud, a little bud, because you want to cut just after that bud as well. That will encourage a branch to start growing from that bud. And that doesn't apply to things like raspberries or anything, because those you just cut down about a couple of inches above the ground. But certainly apple trees and things like that. Digwa says, tips on pruning a fig tree, please. My biggest tip is don't prune them when the sun is out. They've got this horrible sap that can really burn your skin. Other than that, I only really prune a fruit tree to maintain shape. I like a nice fan trained fig tree on those, so I only really prune to maintain that type of shape. Don't really need much pruning because they're not exactly what I would call a branching tree. They don't grow loads and loads of branches. They generally just have their main branches and grow from that. On a whole, that's my experience anyway. So I've not really had to prune much of my fig tree, but has anybody else pruned their fig trees a little bit more than I have? Jenny says, I may be wrong, but is it plum you can allow to grow and peg the branches down with string? What to create? Are you talking about creating like a step over apple tree there, Jenny? Let me know. Let me know. Over on Instagram, Plot 52 has joined. Welcome along. Hope you are well. Anna Jones says, a lot of silverleaf in my neighbourhood. Been killing a lot of ornamental cherries. Serious disease. So prune after May to avoid the fungi. That's exactly what I was talking about. And that's another reason as well. Keep your secateurs clean. If you're going from tree to tree, give them a clean in between. You can get like a little spray disinfectant to spray on, and it's really easy to use. But it's a top tip, something we should really remember. We don't want to spread disease from tree to tree. I'm just waiting for Jenny's response to that plum tree and pegging the branches down with spring, because there was talk. One of the things that we can do with some fruit trees, so the general assumption, if you want a fruit tree, you would just let the branches go. If you want a tree, sorry, you just let the branches go like that. If you want a fruit tree, you really want to bring the branches down so you can access them. And you can do that with apple trees, pear trees, anything like that. Plum trees, I think it would work as well. And the reason you can actually just tie some string and a weighted, I don't know, bottle filled with water or something to bring those branches down. You have to wait a while for those branches to really get stuck in that sort of shape. But string weighted down. We spoke about this before. I think it was Stuart Jackson was asking for a tree in school about that, if I remember correctly, and we answered that. Seen it done with pear trees, Jenny, says Ballycillian. And that's exactly what I was thinking. Look some more. Oh, and Jenny says, looks more like a weeping tree. More branch equals more fruit. I can't Google without leaving the live. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so a lot of it is about access as well. You've got to remember, if you've got a tall fruit tree and your apples, let's say an apple tree, for example, your apples at the top, they're very difficult to get to. But if you can weigh those branches down, you can get to those apples a little bit better. And that also helps with letting light and air through the tree, which helps with the fruit production and so on. But we'll wait and see. But I've never done that myself. So I'm sure some of you have done that before yourselves. Oh, that's lovely. I've really got a taste for summer fruit squash at the moment. Jenny said thank you to Ballycillian, who says he's seen it done with pear trees. I'm going to open up this book. On any page and tell you what it says about pruning. So I've opened it up, ornamental shrubs, funny enough, but one of the things I think is relevant to what we tend to talk about, it says time. So when we were talking about pruning, I didn't really even think that we might be pruning herbs, but we certainly should be pruning herbs. And again, thyme is one of those herbs that we lightly prune. I tend to try and prune my herbs when I'm harvesting them to keep them in shape. But again, it's all about maintaining a good shape. And we've all seen those sort of overgrown rosemary bushes as an example that have gone really woody on the stems because they've just been left to get bigger and bigger, and then you cut it back and you're left with just a load of woody material on the inside. If you regularly prune your herbs such as rosemary, thyme, you actually maintain that and stop it from going woody. Scottish guy that tread says, I was looking at growing kiwis. Would you recommend this? Any advice on it? If you're going to grow a kiwi, grow a variety called Jenny. They're self-fertile. They will grow in this country. Might need to be in a greenhouse or something to give a bit of protection, but it can be done. They do need a bit of heat. You might be better, however, looking at kiwi berries instead as another alternative, which are a bit more likely to produce. Turbo Stream says, I do need to prune my blueberry as its growth is at the top now. I want to hack the top off, but I might kill it. So let's have a look in this book, shall we, and see what it says about blueberries while we're here. Anybody else got any advice on blueberries? Then throw it in there. Throw it in the chat. Let's see, where are they? I can't find blueberries. Here we go. Right. Ornamental. I'll go to the index. That might be an easier way to find it. No, Turbo Stream says open a page on blueberries, please. Blue BL blue P 225 227. Let's see. Or 239 looks like a better one. 239. Blueberries. So just to prove, that's what it says about blueberries. I'm on the page. So what does it say? High bush blueberry. High bush blueberries are sold as 2-year-old cuttings, plant while dormant from late autumn through winter. The principle of pruning is the same as for blackcurrants, though wood will fruit well from year one and until at least 4 years old, after which it should be removed in favour of younger, more productive growth. So that doesn't really tell me much at all. Just trying to see if there's anything else about it. It suggests, oh, that's high bush blueberries. doesn't really tell me much, but I think really what it wants to cut away, like we do with blackcurrants, branches that are over 3 years old, just to get rid of those. Jenny says most Jennies are reliable. Treat her well. Talking about the Kiwis for Scottish Guy. Yeah, Jenny is a good variety. There was another one. I can't think what it was called at the moment. Andrew Norris has joined. Evening, Richard. Hello and all. Good evening, Andrew. Hope you are well. Jenny says, pop your blueberry pruning in water. They root really easily. Pot on when they have an inch or so of root. There we go. That's one of the things I'm going to be doing because I really do need some new blueberry plants. Ericaceous soil, of course, for blueberry. Andrew says, when do people think it's the best time to prune apple trees? I've always done it in December as advised, but with no results. Anyone suggest a better time? I always say it's good to prune apple trees December, January time when they are dormant, when they have no leaf on them. That's what I say. I prune them then, but apple trees, I'm trying to think, is there any hard or fast rules with fruiting on them? And I can't think of any. So dead disease damaged and then maintain their shape. Turbo Stream says, I was assuming if I cut off the top growth, it wouldn't fruit for a couple of years. I think really what I would be inclined to do, Turbo, is thin it out first. Cut away some of the older branches, leave some on, and just see how it goes. Thin it out, see how it goes, and then if it doesn't work that way, then cut it off, as like you said, and go from there. Um, Turbo Stream says, I will do that, Jenny. When should I do it? Spring or now? Do it now. My advice would be do it now because the chances are it's gone dormant. And this one thing I keep saying is that we tend to do this sort of pruning when the tree is dormant. And the reason I say that is that the tree or fruit bush isn't going to be concentrating its energy into making leaf while it's dormant. So when you cut that tree, it's got plenty of energy to seal that cut. It's not really going to do any long-term damage because it's concentrating on potting root growth on. Now, when we prune a tree spring, summer, when it's trying to put all the energy of it into leaf growth and we cut it off, it's then got to focus energy or a bit of energy into that cut, making sure it seals that cut, which is why I tend to avoid pruning at any other time, except stone fruit trees. And we do need to do a bit of pruning in the spring, summer, just to maintain shape. But the real hard pruning is done in the winter. As I said, one of the big reasons I do that as well is that we can actually see what the tree is doing. Over on Instagram, Skinny Jean Gardner has joined. Hope you are well, my friend. I was really worried about that boat last night. Jenny says, both Turbo. I popped some in my homemade reef last Christmas, and popped the spare in water. All happy growing in pots. Any in spring you think they should pruned off, pop them in water. Few ideas there. I like the idea of trying to get more plants out of these trees as well. So if I'm going to prune my blueberries, which I'm probably going to do following this chat, I'm going to try and grow some more blueberries from that as well. I do need some new blueberry plants. Some as my black currants, red currants, etc., etc. Even my apple tree. When I prune my apple tree, I'm going to try and take some cuttings from that to try and get more trees. Why not? Why not? It's kind of how many, what do you call them, nurseries will grow a lot of their plants as well. Chili Kate has came in with a question. I have a plum tree which I planted on the allotment a year ago, and it fruited heavily for its size. When should I do the first prune apart from anything DD or D, dead, diseased or damaged? So I would wait until summer. I would wait until summer because it is a stone fruit tree. As it's its first year after planting, normally the advice is to try and remove all the flowers from it so it can get established. But I would do the first pruning this summer. That would be my advice. Obviously, dead, diseased, or damaged, and then try and maintain shape. Currants do root easily, really easily in water as well. I'm going to do all this. I'm really going to do all this. Over on Instagram, Brian Equality Brown has joined, and 10 Lads has also joined as well. Yes, it's a mess garden has also joined over on YouTube. Hello, everyone. Hello to you. Lovely to see you. We're talking about pruning. And I think now is the good time. Does anybody have any pruning techniques that they can share with us? So far, Digwell has come up with the best hack, a hack that I really like because it just makes so much sense. And if you didn't get that earlier, you're going to have to go back and find out what that hack is. Chili Cake says, thanks, Richard. I didn't know about the flowers in year one. I hope I haven't exhausted it too much. I'm sure it would be fine. I'll be completely honest. Most of us will leave it to flower in year one anyway. So, it's just what the experts tell us. And it kind of makes sense, but I'm sure it'd be fine. Digwell says, 2 of my blackcurrants are from rooted prunings started in water. I've got, as you know, out my front garden, I've got quite a few fruit trees and bushes, some of which I'm going to have to pot up actually. But when I prune those, I'm going to do exactly what you guys are saying because you know what? I want more of them. I just want more of them. Turbo Stream says, I successfully rooted ripcord cuttings by making a drill in the soil and placing a few cuttings in it. The next autumn, I had several small plants which produced fruit this year. Fantastic, fantastic. See, this is one of the great advantages, I think, that when we prune our fruit trees, fruit bushes, and we make cuttings, we get more plants, which can only be a good thing. And okay, you could probably end up with too many plants, especially if you're like me. But is there such thing as too many plants? I don't think there is. All right. So I think at this point, it's probably going to be a good time to share with you when I do my winter pruning. I've already said I cut away any dead, diseased or damaged branches. Just simply go back to the last bud and cut just after that. That will promote growth. Sometimes if it's really bad, I might have to go right back to the main trunk. But once all dead, diseased and damaged branches are out the way, we then have to think about the overall shape of the tree. Actually, that's not true. We want to think about letting the light and air through. So any branches that are crossing like that, we want to remove one of those to leave, so that prevents that. So that prevents any more damage and makes the tree easier. There's a lot of sayings like with apple trees is that a bird should be able to fly through the apple tree without getting caught in the branches as well is another good thing to think about when it comes to pruning. Easier said than done, but the idea being that if a bird can fly through an apple tree easily, then light and air is going to get through that fruit tree as well. So doing that and in overall shape are where we should be, or the routine that I tend to take when it comes to do that, to pruning. I'm really confused tonight. I have to apologize. By the way, I'm just going to ask you if you can give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscribe, and click the notifications so that you know when we go live. We go live every Sunday at 6, but it just helps with the algorithms. Turbo Stream says, I will be doing the same with some of my blackcurrant cuttings. Turbo Stream also says, I also successfully rooted a few gooseberries plants by layering a branch on the soil and pegged it down for a year. Layering. That is something I really love doing. What I tend to do with layering. So I know this is slightly off topic, but relevant at the same time because we've been talking about taking cuttings. But layering, some plants will layer. Blackberry is a really good example because as blackberry branches will grow out, the branch will then drop to the ground, and where it's in contact with the ground, it will produce roots and then it will produce another plant. And we can do this. This is the method of layering that we can replicate. What I tend to do, if I want to layer a particular fruit tree, there's quite a few we can do this with: gooseberries, blackberries, currants. I will actually take that branch and pot it through the bottom of a plastic plant pot, and then fill that plant pot up with soil. Wait for it to show signs that it has laid. It may take a year. It may need some support, but then all I've got to do is cut it away from the main plant, and there we go, a plant already in a pot. So easy to do layering. It's one of my favourite and probably much more reliable than putting in water. Apple trees are easy to prune and grow into an arch as well. Makes picking the apples easier. Great for small gardens and look great. Again, this is something that I've been doing more of in my garden, or want to do more of, is trying to get fruit trees to be more ornamental and look the place. One of the things I've already said is having 3-tiered espalier trees to create like a fence. But I have seen pear trees at Westdean Gardens where they form an arch. They're tied into an arch, creating like a tunnel where pear trees are all over it. It's fantastic to see. It really, really is. Yes, it's a mess garden, says, I air layered a couple of fig trees when they developed roots. I removed and planted by fence, hoping to espalier for an edible privacy fence. And that's exactly what I like. This is exactly what I like about pruning, is that we can take our edibles, we can turn them into something a bit more ornamental, but also functional in the terms that we get fruit, we get fencing, we get a whole wide range of things out of them. That's what I love about gardening, is the sheer um, although the sheer ability to do a lot of wide range things that people have thought of, but we can do that at home. Again, this is why I love this book. Been read this book several times. It's a great little book. By the way, I'm not promoting it or anything in that sense. It's just it's done me well over the years. Right, I tell you what I'm gonna do. You sent me a recipe to cook this week. Unfortunately, I didn't make a video, but we've got onion bhajis. So what I'm going to have to do is just quickly run through how I made these onion bhajis. I took a couple of large onions and sliced them, trying to get the slices as even as possible. Once the onions were sliced, obviously peeled and cored as well, put those to one side, trying to break them up as much as possible. I then made a batter. The batter consisted of 100 grams of gram flour, a bit of turmeric, about a teaspoon and a half a teaspoon of chili powder. Could also chop in some chilies as well for extra spice. And then I mixed in 100 mils of water. And once the batter was nice and sort of mixed together well, making a nice batter, we added in the onions, and then we just, on a hot oil, deep fat really we're trying to do here, but that's easier said than done. Just took a tablespoon of this onion batter mixed and dropped it into the oil and let it cook for a few minutes. How, I hear you ask, did they turn out? Let's find out. Delicious. Really nice. Really nice. You cannot, excuse me, there's no way anybody would think that hadn't came from a Indian takeaway. Really, really nice. Excuse me, sorry. That is really, really nice. I do like onion bhajis, but it's so easy to make at home that I'm going to be making more of those at home in the future, along with the pakoras we made last week. This is absolutely brilliant. Over on Instagram, Andy Moore 121 has joined. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Jenny says they look delicious. They taste delicious as well. So easy to make. So easy to make onion bhajis. You know, I am with all these recipes you guys keep giving me. I'm starting to not think about getting a takeaway so much because you keep giving me some great ideas. I really like those onion bhajis. I need a recipe for next week though. Anna Jones says, "What is your opinion of using?" The comment just gone. Sorry, wound sealants after pruning, Richard. Most pruning guides seem to advise not to use it. So, actually, that's a very good question. So, I do have some sealant. I only really use a sealant if I'm pruning in the spring. Reason being is that, as I said earlier, when a tree is cut or broken, it produces the sap to try and seal that wound. It's part of the natural process, but it does take a bit of energy from the tree. Now, in the wintertime, it's not so difficult for that energy to be focused. So in the winter, I wouldn't necessarily use a sealant. But if something happens in the spring, summer time where I wouldn't use the term pruned, but you know when a branch gets broken in high winds, that's probably a better example. Branch gets broken in high winds, that might be the time to use a sealant after pruning. But I would also say trees have a natural defense against it. It's called sap. It's what they do to prevent it from happening to themselves. So don't need it that much. What have we got? Talking amongst themselves there. So, Digwell says, as Richard says, use a sealant outside of the tree's normal pruning season. Exactly. My normal, excuse me, my nose is blocked up for some reason. The pruning season, the winter time, they don't need it. And the primary reason we would use a sealant is to stop any disease attacking that tree. It's like if you cut your skin, bacteria can find its way in, and it's the same for a tree. You cut it, bacteria can find its way in. Our bodies produce white blood cells, and we try and block off that cut to stop bacteria from getting in. Trees do exactly the same thing with sap. My nose has really got blocked up for some reason. Andrew says, great question, Anna. I tended to use a sealant in winter, but I think I shall abstain for now. I'll put it like this. If you think of trees growing out in the wild where we don't interfere with it, strong winds come through, they break their branches all the time, the trees still survive. They still stand. They've got a natural defense against it. One of the other times I can think it might be a problem, we spoke about silver leaf disease, a fungi, earlier. That might be one of the times, if that is prevalent in your area and it's that time of year when it's going to be traveling around, that might be a time you need to use a sealant. But again, try and avoid it at all costs. My nose. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah, I do need a recipe for next week in case you haven't worked it out as well. So if you guys have got a suggestion for something you want me to cook next week, that would be absolutely brilliant. I'll be always looking for ideas, a recipe that we can all do. What have we got? Nothing going on there. Nothing going on Instagram. Shall we have a look at your photos? Oh, no. Here we go. Digwell's come back with trees will survive, but we as gardeners want the best from them. So we do what we got to do. Exactly. But I think even as gardeners, sometimes we interfere a little bit too much. And we try and create the best environments for our plants. But sometimes they're going to do what they're going to do just naturally. And they find a much better way of doing it, I think. But let's have a look at your photos. So what have we got here today? Oh, yeah, I've got to move it over onto the big screen so I can see it. So first of all, Shipyard Gardener and Ballysillian have been making a new skin for their polytunnel. As you can see, Shipyard is here with his newly purchased skin for the polytunnel. Scott's Pond is taking shape. As you can see, I can still see the rather phallic sign there, but it's filled with water with a tiny little island in the middle. It looks like it's going to be quite a big pond. Like, how is Scott out there? How big is that pond in terms of meterage? What else have we got? Stuart's been making some hot chili oil. This is something that absolutely fascinates me. I'd love to know, Stuart, how you've done this, because that looks really, really good. Kate has got a cobnut tree. Now, there's a bit of a funny story about this cobnut tree that she shared with us all. Is that she was driving past and saw a sign saying cobnut trees for sale outside a house. So she went to this house, and apparently the bloke looked like a serial killer. So she very tentatively, with her husband, managed to buy this cobnut tree, but did feel a little bit like something was going to happen. Luckily, they came out okay, and they got a cobnut tree at the same time. Now, Beddoes has been showing a bit of humour as always, and this is something I think we all go for. We get some great gardening ideas, especially throughout this following winter period, where we're jotting down our ideas, thinking, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do all these things. It's going to be amazing. And then when it actually happens, it's mud, sweat, and tears. Now, finally, I've mentioned this last week. I'm doing a talk on Friday, the 22nd of November, 7 p.m. at Bishopstoke Community Centre in Bishopstoke near Eastleigh, just north of Southampton. £3 entry fee. If anybody wants to come along, then please do. It's always good to see people there. 7 o'clock in the evening, by the way. Turbo Stream says slow cook a stew for next week. Up to you guys what you want me to do. Chili Cake says, what are you harvesting, Richard? Might help with inspiration. What am I harvesting? So we've got turnips, which actually I do need something to do with turnips. Turnips and leeks are coming out of the ground. Trying to think, might have some cabbages, beetroot, spring onions. Trying to think, got some tomatoes in the greenhouse, but only just. Chard. Yeah, I think that there's more that I just can't think of, but I think concentrate on those few things: turnips, leeks, chard, etc., etc. Jenny says, love Scott's Pond. I think we do. Scott says it's about 7 meters long. Took about 6 hours to fill. 7 meter long pond. That's a big old pond. How deep is it as well? Because it looks pretty deep. Over on Instagram, Debs001 UK has joined. Lovely to see you there. What else have we got? Stuart Jackson says, you just put the chilies in veg oil, then warm it up, then put in a bottle. Hopefully it will work, but this is my first time making it. Are you doing it with the kids, or is it just you? I'd love to know. Adrian says hi to Rob's Allotment Gardening. Hello, Adrian. Missed that. Turbo Stream says, I dug my parsnips up this week. Only 2 decent ones. All were full of canker. I've got a few parsnips as well, actually. I think we haven't had a frost yet, so I haven't dug them up just yet. Jenny says, size matters, Scott. Talking about the pond. Obviously, I'm referring to the potential for planting and wildlife. We all know we're talking about the pond, don't you? Stew is good, says Digwell. Always good. Leeks, onions, turnips, chard stems go into my stews along with just about any other veg. I think I could do a nice stew, could I? With excuse me, I could do a nice stew with those vegetables I mentioned. Um, if that's what you guys want. Chili oil is a home project. Okay, that's cool. I like to see that, how well it goes. Funny enough, Stuart, I, I had to go to Cheltenham the other day, and driving back, I saw a sign that said the village of where your school is. I'm going to not shout it out loud because I don't know if you want everybody to know, but I saw it and I suddenly thought of you. Stew sounds amazing. Okay, so we're going to do a turnip vegetable slow cooker stew next week. I'm sure I can find something along those lines. Stew and dumplings, says Rob. I haven't had stew and dumplings in ages, but yeah, I can certainly do stew next week. Certainly slow cooker as well. So I've ordered some that claim to be a shorter parsnip. I think my soil is too heavy to grow a decent parsnip. I don't think it's so much that it's too heavy to grow a decent parsnip. It's the germination more than anything, where I think clay soils affect parsnips. Once they're growing, I think they are fine because they can. I mean, a parsnip is quite a dense, tough root vegetables, and they will push out clay soil quite easily, in my opinion. Anyway, it's just about the germination that I think gives it problems. But I could be wrong. I'm not on your soil. I'm not at your place to see how it's going. Scott says deepest part is about 4 foot deep. I think that's pretty deep, isn't it? That's like 1.2 meters. That's a big old deep pond. Fantastic. Gotta say, fantastic. Oh, my nose. I hate it when my nose gets blocked halfway through because I can feel like now my voice is going because it's just suddenly blocked up. I'd love to know what caused that. What else have we got? We've done your photos. So are we going to do stew? We won't do the mission just yet. Again, that was take some photos, but we will do the mission in just a moment. Jenny says, well, Scott, I know you mentioned having fish. They will be frost safe in a pond that size and depth. And Scott says they did a lot of digging. He got the teenagers to dig out that pond. You might have guessed that by the shape of it, but they got us teenagers to dig out the pond. It looks absolutely amazing, though, doesn't it? It really, really does. Terry Stream says the two that were good were massive apart from the canker. I still have a decent amount of parsnips to eat, though. So parsnip canker can be a bit of a problem, but I wonder if that's the real reason why you're not getting any parsnips. I don't know. I suspect it's more to do with the canker than anything. But there are canker-resistant varieties, I believe. We need an aerial photo of Scott's pond. We do, don't we? We need an aerial photo of your pond, Scott. I don't know if you have any way of doing that, but it would be cool. Is the pond on allotment or own garden? I think it's on his allotment, which is of course great. We're not allowed ponds on my allotment site, which I think is really annoying because it would be good to have one. Digwa says just scrape off the canker before eating. Yeah, that's the best way of dealing with canker. It's not too much of a problem, but I think it does stun the growth a little when they are growing if they get canker quite early on. Is it? I'm trying to think. You know what it's like when you do a live stream and your mind suddenly thinks of something. Is canker a fungal disease or is it something else? I'm going to ask that to you because my mind can't think about it at the moment. Turbo Stream says I do. I just cut it out. Excellent. So I'm just going to come back to the conversation we're having about pruning. What fruit trees or bushes are you going to be pruning this week. I'm going to be pretty much, or this winter. That's better. This winter, I'm going to be pretty much pruning all of my fruit trees and bushes. On the allotment, I've got apple trees, pear trees, currant bushes, gooseberry bushes, all of which are going to need some good pruning. And back at home, particularly at the front, we've got all of the what I've just mentioned, including raspberries as well. Out the back, I've got my grapes, actually. Grapes are going to need a good prune. We got, well, you saw the pictures a few weeks back, didn't we? A good amount of grapes. They were absolutely delicious. Tasted great. And we got some good stuff out of it. Digwell says canker is caused by spores that are spread by the wind during cool, wet weather in the autumn. So it is a fungal spore then, I'm guessing. A fungal thing spread by cool, wet weather in the autumn. So could that also affect it in the spring when there's also cool, wet weather? I wonder. I personally find that parsnip seeds can be very, very finicky. They don't really like growing or germinating when the conditions are not exactly right. Over on Instagram, Callow Andy has joined. Welcome along, my friend. I always sow my parsnips in May because I find that's the best time to get them to germinate. Turbo Stream says that will be the wet September limb. Interesting. There you go. Scott says I need to prune my quince tree that is in a terrible state. Lots of crossing branches. I will take a photo if I remember. It only produced one fruit this year. You see, that is a great example of a tree that will benefit from pruning. Cross branches are never good. The productivity of only one fruit on a quince tree this year is not good as well. So I think I'd love to see how. I'll tell you what, Scott, what I'd love to see is a photo or video of what it looks like before you prune it, photo, video of what it looks like after pruning, and how much fruit you get from it this year, or 2025, I should say. My mate told me to always do the parsnips very thickly, which does work for me. I agree with that, parsnips, because you can always thin them out. I think when you've got a clay soil particularly, parsnips have a tough time breaking through the capping on the soil when the soil gets wet and dry. But when you grow, it's like one coming up on its own is just not powerful enough to break through the capping on the clay soil. But when you have lots of them, they all grow through and break that soil quite easily. So sowing parsnip seeds thickly makes all the difference. I don't have many to prune as we move, but I am planting lots of bare roots. I will only prune the DDDs on those and then grow them a year before we start to shape them, etc. Yeah. Good advice there. Good advice. By the way, bare rooted fruit trees, bushes, cheap to buy at this time of year. They're all around, and I think it's the best way of growing them because they do, I think, tend to take to the ground much easier. Jenny says, I love quince. I would love to have a tree. Wouldn't we all? They're big trees, though, quince trees. Big trees. We've got some in our community orchard, so they're definitely around. Scott says, I can do that. Fantastic. Parsnips won't get canker in spring unless they have the foliage on from last year. Thank you. This is why we want these answers, Digwell, because, or to anybody who has answers to these questions, because we all learned something from this. So I did wonder if canker was a spring thing, but no, it's purely an autumn thing. I would love a medlar as well, says Jenny. Absolutely. Medlar, quince, with old-fashioned fruit trees. They're not around much these days, are they? Turbo Stream says, I've decided to abandon the no dig on my plot. A lot of people are doing that. The top surface is lovely, but deep down it's hard. It's rock hard. I dug a patch over and the soil is lovely when it's broken up. Funny enough, I was having a conversation earlier today about no dig, and I personally think no dig is great. The downside is that you need a lot of compost. And if you can't produce enough of your own compost, you are in trouble because you need to import some, and then that can get very, very expensive. Digwell says quants came before quints. Did quants came before quints? Oh, with you. Bit of pop culture. Oh, knocked out a bit too much. It was a tree I got from a different allotment. I dug it up and replanted it. Didn't expect it to survive. 2 other trees didn't. You know what? That's one of the other things as well. Slightly off topic, but where we're talking about pruning. But I dug up last year a couple of trees, particularly my cider apple tree, and moved into a different location. But unfortunately, it didn't survive. It died, which is really upsetting because I was really looking forward to getting some nice cider apples this year. Well, next year, next few years. But it didn't survive. So I'm going to have to get, probably not this year now, but I'm going to have to get a replacement cider apple tree, just purely for making cider because it's the only alcoholic drink I like. Sorry, trying to free up my nose because I can feel it. I had a meddler on my plot. The 410s shotgun saw him off. Those meddlers. They're pain in the arse, aren't they? Turbo Stream says, I have put loads of leaf mead, leaf mold on my compost since I took it, but it's made no difference. Sure, it works on some soils. I think it's about getting the worms into the soil as well. That's the important thing. I don't get it. Someone explain. Don't get what? What the joke about quants come before quints. Quants come before quints. Prince, I think, is what he's alluded to there. I think that's what you meant, Jenny. Digwell can hopefully explain that a bit more in case I've got that wrong. Well, the artist formerly known as Prince is what I was thinking there. Anyway. Right. Have we done? So this week you set me a mission, as you always do. And it was to share some photos of autumn. As you know, I'm a passionate photographer. I've not had the chance to actually edit these photos, so they're not quite where I'd want them to be. Again, did make a video, but I'm just going to share these videos, these photos with you. These are my onion sets that I've started off in root trainers just before they go into the ground. They're looking pretty damn good, I've got to say. Quite happy with those. Next, we've got, this is the elder tree, which is kind of what we have been talking about. Is this the elder tree? It's going to come up in a second, so I'll be able to see a bit better. Let's move the screen over. Yeah, that's the elder tree. As I said, it's a complete and utter mess, that tree. Completely twisted and all over the place, which is why it needed a really hard prune. Next, this is the asparagus and apple tree. Apple tree does need writing up once again. But as you can see, it's starting to show signs that is just dying down. Starting to go dry and brittle. Not a great photo, this one, but you get the idea. This is something we've all got in place at the moment. Cabbages growing under fleece for protection, all of which are actually very topical at the moment because pigeons are hungry. Moving on from that, this is the allotment in the autumn tidy up, having a good tidy up, cutting the grass. As you can see, beds that are not having anything growing in them. Excuse me. I think I've got a cold. Covered over with cardboard or green manures to reduce weeds. Now, because I was up in, where was it? Cheltenham. No. Where did I say? Cheltenham the other day. I did take a few photographs up there. This is a plant display I saw full of these autumn flowering plants. This was one I quite liked with the autumn leaves up alongside a fence. Might need a bit of editing on that one as well. And then the obligatory street photography with the what do you call it? Remind me, please. Graffiti. That's the word I was looking for. Graffiti. So that was my photos. You guys have actually sent in a photo as well. Digwell says Quinn equals 5, Quan equals 4. Completely not what I thought. Completely not what I thought you were going at for there. Andrew says, "Oh, the elder tree, bane of my life." That's kind of why I've decided to get rid of the elder tree. It wasn't a decision I really wanted to do because I quite like elder tree. I like elderflowers particularly as well because we make a lot of elderflower cordial and things like that. But we can forage for that, and that's what I've decided. We're going to forage for those things. Jenny says that makes more sense, and bless you as well. Cheltenham is well posh. It was quite, actually. I was quite surprised, but I was there for work. I haven't never been to Cheltenham before. It was quite interesting. I was in Bristol last week as well, somewhere else I'd never been, but it was interesting. I like going to different places. Andrew says, get rid of it. Good luck. It can be done. I'm sure it can be done. The trouble with, as you saw with that elder tree, it's not so much a tree anymore. It's just a twisted mess of branches. And that's why I want to get rid of it. And I used, as I said, this pair of loppers, as you can see, the handle's quite long. And in 10 minutes, I had that down to a much more manageable size. I've got to try and get rid of the waste, of course, but what I'm hoping to do is then cut away the rest of the elder tree. Then I'm going to place on top of it a compost bin to use to fill up with compost material in order to rot away and stop that tree from growing again. That's the idea. Whether it'll work or not is whether it'll work or not is something we will find out. Digwell says, best thing about elder tree is the jelly ear fungi that grow on it. Delicious. No idea on that. Allergic to mushrooms. But I do like elderflower cordial. I love elderflower cordial. I make it pretty much every year. And that was tasty. Jenny says, I've planted a few elder trees. I love them. I like the trees. They're just not suitable on the allotment. I'll put it like that. Not suitable on the allotment. Digwell says, careful, Richard. I am halfway between Bristol and Cheltenham. I've gone Bristol last week, Cheltenham this week. I might end up in the middle this week. Who knows? I hope not. I hope no. Not that I don't hope, because I would love to go to these places. It's a long journey for me to do there and back in a day. Andrew says, I doubt you'll get rid of it completely. Sorry to say that. My method using the compost bin does work, but we'll find out, won't we? Jenny says, make a bug snug with the branches and some twigs and dry leaves, etc. There is a challenge idea. A bug snug. Tell me more. Do you want that to be the challenge for this week? I want a pink elderflower for pink elderflower cordial and champagne. Just watch out. The trees themselves get really, really big. Rob says, I got a speeding ticket on the M5 somewhere near Gloucester on the way to Cornwall. No, not good, not good. Anna says, my next door neighbour's elder has the jelly fungi in winter. Very strange stuff. Not seen it myself, but interesting indeed. The elder prunings, when dried, will make nice kindling. They will. Takes a year though, doesn't it? Use beetroot juice to make that pink elderflower. However, some of you have also sent in some of your autumn photos as well. I'm not sure if there was more in the group thinking about it. I think there was. Or did we get them all? We'll find out. So let me bring that back over here. So autumnal photos that you have sent in. Now, Chili Kate has sent in a few photos. This is a dandelion, as you can see. Looks lovely. Unusual to see like this in this time of year, but you know, dandelion. It's a bizarre year this year that dandelions are still flowering. This looks to be broccoli as a guess, but I could be wrong. Certainly looks like it from where I'm sitting. Nasturtium flowers, again, the nasturtiums here haven't got hit by a frost yet, so they're still growing very, very well. And another type of flower, this looks like a passion flower actually. I could be wrong, but hopefully the chilies can tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. Looks like it to me. And of course, apple tree or some kind of fruit tree with a snug bug or a bee house next to it on the ground, and the bed below it has really been taken over or cleared away, etc., etc. Excellent. Digwell says that flower was an osteoperdium. Osteoperdium. There we go. Now, Digwell has also sent in some autumnal photos as well. These look absolutely fantastic. Look at those. I think they're marigolds, if I'm not mistaken. Looks absolutely beautiful. More nasturtium leaves. I like how the sunlight is just shining through these as well. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? A moon in the background with a tree. And is that a bat hanging from that tree as well? Let us know. Double rainbow, quite common to see at this time of year. I forget what this type of cloud is called, but doesn't it signify snow can be on its way or frost on its way? Not sure. And what looks to be like a small quiches, maybe paella or something. Not paella. I'm going to go with small quiches there. I think I'm correct from Digwell. Perfect for eating this time of year as well. Hopefully I got those all correct. If anybody does ever want to send in photos or videos, please do feel free. And we would love to share them. By the way, if you want to share photos, you can send them to me via email, richard@adventgroundpodcast.co.uk. You can post them in our Facebook group or send to me via social media. Digwell says, Google it. Very popular in Chinese cookery, talking about that fungi thing. Rob says he was only doing 81 when he got the speeding ticket. Your speedo must have been displaying 90, though, to be doing that, to get us caught at that speed. Scott says most people that eat Chinese noodle pots packs will have eaten jelly ears. Really? That's interesting. Very interesting. Andy just says it looks revolting, however, so she won't be trying any. I always say, I mean, I'm allergic to mushrooms anyway, so I won't be touching them anyway, but always be careful if you are foraging from mushrooms. Be very careful. Make sure you know exactly what you are looking at. Bug snugs can also be used to grow beans and tomatoes, etc. Is everybody in agreement as that for the challenge for next week to make a bug snug? Let me know. Raise your hand if you say yes. Osteoperdium. The tree was my young plum. Oh, okay. Okay, so looking at that photo, I can see why you were saying about bringing those branches down now. Yes, you can do that with that. Makes perfect sense. I think you'll get away with that, definitely. I spent ages waiting for an insect to land on that nasturtium leaf. Was there? I didn't see it. I'm sorry, I didn't see that, but I could be wrong. Digwell says frittata. That was the word I was looking for, not paella. Frittata. Yeah. I knew it was something Spanish. Looks yummy. It does, doesn't it? Bug Hotel is okay with me. Scott has raised his hand, so it looks like I'm going to be making this bug snug next week. That'd be a good one. That'd be a good one. I've got plenty of material at the moment to do this with. I haven't worked out what we're going to talk about next week either. So if anybody has any suggestions, ideas, or anything like that you think we should talk about next week, throw it in the comments too. Because I got a few. I did have an idea, but it seems very unseasonable. Actually, it kind of relates. The idea I had kind of relates. No, we're not going to do it, but I was thinking that tomorrow's podcast, Monday's podcast, is going to be about Christmas gardening Christmas gifts, or Christmas gifts for gardeners. And I did think perhaps that could be a subject we talk about next week. But if you've got any other ideas, please feel free to share them. However, I don't like talking about Christmas before December, but Christmas is only 5 weeks away. It's coming quickly at the moment. And it's making me think. Digwell says, yes, all speedos are over calibrated with a minimum of 10% plus 4 miles per hour. Yeah, there's some weird way of working it out. But speedos in this country are generally read lower than your speed you're doing. Don't take this as gospel because I don't want to get blamed for anybody getting speeding tickets. But they generally read lower than the speed that you are doing because they cannot read faster than you are doing or something. No, sorry, they read faster than what you are doing. And the best way, if you've got a GPS that tells you how many miles per hour you're doing, that can actually be quite a good indicator. I find sitting at 50 on the speedo of the van, I'm actually doing about 44 miles an hour on the GPS. Jenny says structure, builds, shelters, raised bed ideas now over overwinter jobs, compost bays, winter collection, arches, ponds, etc. There's a lot in there, But I think winter jobs, winter builds, perhaps winter builds. Would that be a good subject for next week? Talk about winter builds, winter projects. I know I've shared with you my winter projects. I've got quite a few ideas, but of course they always change as we go along as well. Get sharing new ideas. What you want to talk about. Because I really don't want to do the Christmas gift one so close after the podcast. Oh, my nose. This is horrible. I can feel my voice is being very weird when I'm trying to talk with a blocked nose because some people tell me it's a fallacy, but you certainly don't feel it when you're trying to talk and you can't breathe in through your nose. Unless you make a weird noise like that. Digwet says a car maker cannot sell a car with a speedo that shows a lower speed, so they overcompensate on the faster side. According to GPS SatNav, mine is around 10% fast. That sounds about right. Yeah, this is something I've discovered as well. But yeah. But Rob says if I go for a 30 mile per hour signal, what my speedo says 30 in the speed on the sign says 27. Well, that's kind of an example of why it's so different. I mean, this is not garden related, is it? It's just come up. Nicola's joined. Sorry, I'm so late, but been asleep. Wanted to just say hello. I wondered where you were, Nicola. I hope you are well, my friend. Hope you're keeping well and everything's good down in Cornwall. Turbo Stream says winter builds / jobs. I was offered a greenhouse today, but it would need completely reglazing. Cheaper to buy a new one. It was a right mess. It's not actually. I tell you what, that's a good subject. Assuming, of course, that the greenhouse is standard size glasses, 62 centimetre by 62 centimetre glass glazing. Go on Facebook. Oh, you're not on Facebook, so it doesn't work. But I'm going to share it anyway. Facebook Marketplace. People often give away greenhouse glass for free, and that's what I do with my one. My other one is a different size, so it's very, very difficult. Hope you enjoyed your sleep, says Rob to Nicola. Exactly, Rob. So your 81 was around 90 miles per hour. Yeah. Idaho says hi, Nicola. And yes, it's a mess garden. Speedos in America are very skimpy men's swimwear. Yeah, they are here as well. I don't know if they still exist in the UK actually, but we also refer to our speedometer as a speedo because Us British tend to make slang out of everything for some weird reason. Digwell says you do not want to see his speedos. Oh dear, dear, dear. Jenny says, hope you've had a good week, Nicola. Indeed, indeed. Okay, we are winding this down towards the end. We've got a few minutes to go. So I think next week, winter projects, winter builds that you are going to be doing. I've spoken about mine before, but we will do that again. But yeah, got any ideas on that? Don't forget to send pictures, videos, etc., etc. Hopefully, my nose will be a little bit easier to breathe out of. We're going to make this turnip leek vegetable stew. Might throw in some meat as well, but we'll see. And what was the mission? What was the mission? Oh, the bug snug. I really need somebody to write this down sometimes and tell me at the end what I've got to do. Many holiday resorts will only allow Speedos trunks, no bathing shorts. Really? I only ever wear like swimming shorts. I cannot wear Speedos for a very good reason. Jenny says, hit the thumbs up, guys. Yes, please do. YouTube, Facebook, anything, or Instagram. Actually, I don't know if Instagram does it. But wherever you are, please do hit that thumbs up. Please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and follow and click the notifications so that you know when we go live. Oh, my nose. And we're headed into December, rapidly headed into December as we're going to get, I think gardening is going to become much, much quieter. But I think December is going to be a good time to plan for next year. And that's what I think December is going to be concentrating on. Jotting down our plans, going through our seeds, working out what seeds we want to sow and things like that throughout December, especially when it's cold and what have you. Andrew says, night, one and all. I've enjoyed spending this time with you. Thanks, Richard. Lovely to see you, Andrew. Hope you're all well there. Anyway, Jenny says, I'll DM you Winter Jobs Bug Snug Stew. Thank you. That'd be great. Digwa says, don't go to Germany then. Shorts are all but banned there. Really? You do not want me in Speedos. You do not want me in anything tight. And there's a very good reason, which I'm not going to share, but I'll leave that. No, I'm not going to leave that to your imagination. Do not want me in Speedos. It's got to be shorts. So I can't go swimming in Germany. Toby Stream, how can you ban shorts from swimming? Is that a law in Germany? That's just ridiculous. Have a great week, everyone. Stay warm in the north. Some hotels are naked only in their pools. Yeah, I'm not interested. Sorry, not about next week as I'm going to a family meal. Sorry to see that, Stuart, but we're going to miss you nonetheless. Anyway, I think it is time that we pack up and get out of it. I'm absolutely blown away with that about what do you call it? Absolutely blown away about Speedos only in Germany. That's completely blown my mind. Anyway, time to get out of here. We will be back again next Sunday at 6 where we're going to talk about winter projects. And hopefully my nose won't be so blocked and I'll be a bit better prepared. Digwell says, it used to be because in case the short pockets were full of sand blocking their filters. Ban the pockets then, not the shorts. Anyway, right guys, I'll speak to you again next Sunday at 6. Until then, please take care.